Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will put the interest of people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en dat u ons motiewe suiwer sal hou, dat u ons sal help om totkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela ilezwe letu na bantu balo, umusile ukulungu kwepondo letu. Nkosi sikelela i-Afrika, qina abantwana bayo, kokhela inkokheli zayo, yaniki ukolo Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. If you seated. Members about some of the member with the presiding officer and vice of teams. Our standing rules have accordingly been amended to accommodate such hybrid sittings as is expected, but must mute their microphones when they have completed speaking. Honourable members are requested to please ensure that the microphones are muted when the presiding officer recognises them, and when they are done speaking to please mute their microphones. Honourable members participating in the House via Microsoft Teams are also requested not to sign into Microsoft Teams on more than one device. The media have also been granted access to this MS Team meeting as guests of the WCPP. However, I would like to remind members of the press that they may use the chat room or speak or activate their cameras while this. If an individual who is not a member of this House activates their microphone and video camera, such an individual will be exited from the sitting of the House immediately. For the sitting honourable members, honourable members, I would like to remind you that no objections are permitted during these hybrid sessions, and to this end, I draw the honourable members' attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. With that being said, honourable members, we are now proceeding to the relation on question paper. Honourable Murray, is that out of order?
That in order of objections.
There is a request by the Honourable Murray for the motion to take precedent. So I will put the question. Honourable Chief Whip, is that a point of order? Thank you very much, honourable members. As per the rules of Parliament, there has been a request. I now put the question to the House. Honourable Murray, being adopted, please say yes. Those not in favour of the question or the motion, please say no.
No.
That brings us to the end of that question. The motion will not be dealt with as precedent. Now, Minister Wenger. Order, members. There's a member on the floor. Minister. Order, members. Honourable Minister, my apologies. Honourable members, there's a minister on the floor. Honourable.
I thought it was normally a norm when a member asks you to rule on it. If you are unable to rule that time, you will say, as a matter of Honourable Christians, where he was actually being
2 requires that, and I quote, in respect of the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, the Employment Equity Plan identifies annual targets that would incrementally result in the achievement of a 5-year goal set at the onset of the planning period, valid from the 1st of June 2020 until the 31st of May 2025. Further to this, the Employment Equity Plan sets specific measures and actions, including developmental interventions to be achieved for each year. In respect of the Provincial Treasury, the Employment Equity Consultative Forum and Workforce Implementation Report support the efforts of the Department in its efforts to achieve the targets. For transversal information on the provincial government more broadly and beyond the departments I'm responsible for, the Corporate Services Centre is better placed to respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. And now, Honourable Nkondlo.
Honourable Speaker, the people of the Western Cape have come to understand that the DA is all talk and never practice what they preach. While they run with the fake news that colored people will be losing their jobs because of the employment equity regulations, they have been no better in employing the same colored people whom they wish to defend. For example, according to the Provincial Treasury Annual Report 2021-22, the situation in the MEC's departments and entities look dire in terms of equity. Of the top 3 managers in Provincial Treasury, in the top management, 2 are white men. Of the 22 posts in top and senior management in Provincial Treasury, 7 or nearly a third of posts are held by whites, while there are no African women at these levels. At the same time, we see that 3 African men were recruited into the senior management levels during the 2021-22 financial year, but we have to point out sadly that the Provincial Treasury is still recruiting white men. While there may only be 19 white men serving in Provincial Treasury, 18 of these are serving in level 9 to level 16. In other words, they are not found in junior positions, which seemingly are reserved for blacks. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism is no better. Nearly a quarter of the top and senior management posts are held by whites. Again, of 23 posts, only 3 are held by Africans. Again, white males are only found in levels 9 to level 14. This provincial cabinet has yet to set an employment of peoples with disability target, whilst national government has set a target of 2%. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism has a peoples with disability rate of 1.5% and is therefore below the national standard. Again, we must raise objections to white males being recruited by this same department. While these may be professional, qualified, and experienced specialists and mid-management, it is difficult to understand how there cannot be colored and African people, including Indians, with the same skills. Or is it a case of, as Helen Zille said, colored people are not qualified enough? I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Nkondlo. I now recognize the Honourable Murray.
Thank you. And through you, Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for her response. The DA does not support race-based policies that serve only to divide our country further. If 28 years of ANC government has shown us anything, it's that their version of economic empowerment has done exactly the opposite. They have failed to empower historically disadvantaged people in our country while enriching a small elite group of cadres. This creates a clear blue water between us and the ANC, or us, the DA, and the ANC's position on economic empowerment. The DA advocates for an open opportunity society for all, but the ANC doesn't. The proposed employment equity regulations are nothing more than the last kicks of a dying party, Speaker, trying to paint itself as the champion of the poor. But South Africans have had enough, and they see right through this. They have seen that the ANC has no plan for economic empowerment.
Honourable Murray, please take your seat. Honourable Side, is that a point of order?
Honourable Murray willing to take a question?
Honourable Murray, are you prepared to take a question?
I'm flattered, but no thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Murray is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Murray, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, but the DA does. We must start focusing on growing the economy rather than sowing further division amongst our people. Through you, Speaker, I would like to ask the Minister, how will the Growth for Jobs strategy address inequality in the Western Cape? I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Murray. I now recognize the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ANC just
Order, members.
Race-driven politics. That is what the ANC drives, race-driven politics. They had more than 30 years. The inequalities. And what did they do? They gave jobs to cadre deployment. What did they do?
Order.
They gave bankies to bookies and they enriched themselves. And that's why we are struggling. The ACDP is on record that the
Order.
best person for the job, we need to retain the skills in our country and people doing the jobs. So what the people of the Western Cape wants is the job to be done and not cadre deployment. Because give the ANC another opportunity and they'll do exactly the same. So we're against the Employment Equity Act. And Minister, my question is that what are you doing to improve the lives of the people in the street? That is important to the voter out there. I thank
Order.
you.
Members, thank you very much. Loud, but you cannot drown out the speaker. Honorable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Speaker. It is indeed a pity that the new type of racism these days is to deny that racism over years. That is why some of us come from Guguletu and others come from Constantia. It is in no way, it is not an accident of history, but it was man-made and it was engineered by males. And those that are sitting here who are beneficiaries of the system, why they are proxies to the system, and they will speak louder because they are supposed to go back to the table where they receive the crumbs. It is so unfortunate, Honorable Christian. It's a pity that the matter of employment equity to correct the injustice of the past are paid lip service in this House. It is. Let's not talk about race when they are the ones who cry foul in the first place. The actions of this department set the norm and standards for the private sector in the province. Consistently, in the last 14 years, the numbers of colored people employed in our provincial economy has declined. Yet the DA today and its bedfellows, the Freedom Front Plus, want to stand up to defend colored people. In 2009, the ANC left the provincial government, colored women comprising 24% of the economically active population in the Western Cape. In 2020, a decade after DA rule, that figure of colored women participation in the economy stands at 20%. From 24% in 2009 to 20% in 2020. It's interesting to ask, where have they disappeared to? In 2009, colored men comprised 27% of the economically active population. In 2020, a decade later, colored males comprise only 25% of economically active population. So the DA does not protect colored people. Where the DA governs, less colored people lose their places in the economy. So the people of the Western Cape must know that this DA is just about scare tactics. Actually, it continues to entrench tricameral parliament that seeks to divide the black community who are actually enjoined together in the problems of inequality. Together with the Freedom Front Plus, all they can do is to win on fear and actually recruit from these communities their proxies. Let us be emphatic. Employment equity must benefit all those who suffered under apartheid, Africans, colored, and Indians. The legislation is clear and we must promote all our people's access to employment opportunities. Unfortunately, we live in an unequal society and this inequality is based on race. And there's no amount of rhetoric or denialism can actually take away this. We have to confront, as this generation of public reps sitting in this House, we have to confront this particular scourge. We therefore urge this provincial government, who profess to be defenders of the Constitution and who wish to govern by the rule of law, to address the injustices of the past and
please
to implement
conclude.
legislative prescripts such as the Employment Equity, BEE, which seeks the economic emancipation of Africans, colored,
Thank you, Honorable
and Indians.
Nkondlo.
I thank you.
Please take your seat.
It's achieved through ensuring active economic participation by pulling more people into the economy, stimulating competition, improving skills and productivity. We know that it is best made through an open market economy with positive interventions that enable businesses to grow and to create jobs. Fundamentally, we believe in creating equality of opportunity through a state that facilitates economic opportunity for citizens, expands choice, as well as the independence of its residents without limiting individual freedom. The Western Cape government's policies are accordingly designed to achieve equitable representation of vulnerable population groups in the workforce over time through improving productivity, attracting investment, creating an enabling environment for businesses, and reducing unemployment, an approach which is aligned with the Constitution and the achievement of substantive equality. This is our alternative to the national government's approach currently required by national legislation. Development lessons show that addressing the root causes of underrepresentation of vulnerable groups is the most effective approach to achieving a fairer society. A post-secondary school qualification and generally at least 5 years job experience is often the requirement to be eligible for skilled positions. Consequently, the cornerstone of policies to transform representation in the labour market is A, high-quality education from grade R for all, B, close alignment between the curriculum and marketable skills, and C, helping people build networks that connect them to jobs. Furthermore, the policies and strategies of the government are developed to address the root causes of underrepresentation of vulnerable groups in the skilled labour market while supporting the economy's growth, because structural transformation cannot be achieved unless the economy is creating jobs. We are extremely concerned about the impact that the imposition of sectoral numerical targets will have on the economy. In addition, I'm concerned about what it will mean, in particular for women in employment.
Order.
Workforce statistics demonstrate that women are more acutely affected by unemployment than men. Yet the draft regulations set higher quotas for men than for women across all population groups, sectors, and occupational levels. The regulations are poorly compiled and are incoherent, with very little information provided to guide an understanding of the various numerical targets for each sector and occupational level and how they will be applied. As such, they provide insufficient information and clarification for us to be able to comment. They
Order,
appear
members.
on the face of it to be irrational and can be questioned whether they will, in their application, advance equality, notwithstanding that this may be the intention. Insofar as this is the case, there is a material risk that the draft regulations in their current form fall short of the legal standard required by the Constitution. In addition, the procedure followed in enacting the amendment bill was incorrect insofar as the amendment bill was tagged as a Section 75 bill. The Western Cape government provided substantiation for the view that the bill ought to have been tagged as a Section 76 bill. Our objections regarding this specific issue were ignored and it was finalized as a Section 75 bill. The amendment bill and draft regulations are hence at serious risk of being found to be unconstitutional. The draft regulations should accordingly be withdrawn, the Amendment Act repealed, and consideration given to addressing the root causes of the problem. Adequately consulted. Oh, wait, now it's working. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Member for the question. Creating the right conditions for businesses to thrive and grow requires an environment that is business-friendly and competitive, where the foundations for growth, such as energy, infrastructure, and water, are available, and where there is a growing pool of skilled individuals to recruit from. This enabling approach to economic growth is the very basis for the Western Cape's new Growth for Jobs strategy. In this respect, making it easier to do business in the Western Cape by cutting red tape and systematically removing barriers that stand in the way of the private sector's success is an important pillar of our approach to growing the economy. It's for this very reason that the Western Cape government set up the Red Tape Reduction Unit in 2011 with the aim of solving the problems that make it difficult for businesses to grow, and in so doing, ensuring that we work to create an enabling environment for businesses, both big and small, in our province. We are proud of the work done by the Red Tape Reduction team, which has helped thousands of businesses tackle the inefficient government bureaucracy that restricts their growth. I'm informed that this unit is and remains the only provincial unit with dedicated resources to reduce red tape in South Africa. I'm further informed that there are no similar units established in other provinces, although we are aware that the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government, through a partnership with the Department of Small Business Development, has introduced an administrative simplification program with selected municipalities. The Gauteng provincial government has also reached out to the Western Cape's Red Tape Reduction Unit to present to their stakeholders on the work of the unit as they were considering the establishment of such a program. I'm told that this workshop took place on the 8th of September last year. On a national level, there have been several attempts or programs to reduce red tape along these lines. I'm informed that the Department of Small Business Development established a red tape reduction unit. However, I'm informed that the unit is undergoing a restructuring process. Our RTRU was integral in the establishment of the Interprovincial Red Tape Reduction Task Team. The Western Cape Government served as the Deputy Chair, supporting the Department of Small Business Development to set the agenda and objectives, and continues to participate in these programs. Indeed, the Western Cape's Red Tape Reduction Unit actively participates in several national programs with the objective of reducing red tape and is often called upon to provide strategic advice. For example, when the Presidency's Red Tape Reduction Team was announced, the Western Cape Government was called upon to provide inputs to the areas of priority. We continue to serve as a key member of the Presidency's Red Tape Reduction Reference Group. More recently, at the end of May this year, our Red Tape Reduction Unit was approached to host a Red Tape Reduction Peer Learning webinar in partnership with the Investment Climate Reform Programme and the Department of Trade, Investment and Competition. The event brought together all role players, including other provinces, where the Western Cape Government and the City of Cape Town were asked to share approaches, lessons learned and successes. The sessions were moderated by representatives of the International Finance Corporation, with key inputs from other programs aimed to reduce red tape. In summary, the Western Cape, through the Red Tape Reduction Unit and the City of Cape Town, remain the forerunner and model for an institutionalised approach to reducing red tape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognise the Honourable Murray.
Thank you. And through you, Speaker, I'd like to thank the Minister again for her response. We all know that it is up to the private sector to create jobs, and that it is up to government to create conditions that put our entrepreneurs in the best position to do this. And the ANC can dispute this, but even their president has agreed to this. He took a leaf from our own book in the Western Cape and went as far as to commit to the establishment of a red tape reduction unit as far back as February 2022 in his State of the Nation address. Unfortunately, this hasn't yet come to fruition at a national level. But in stark contrast, the work done by the Red Tape Reduction Unit since 2011, that's 11 years before the announcement made by the President, is unblocking bottlenecks, and it's doing so to clearly make sure that our business people have every opportunity to thrive, to start businesses, to sustain their businesses, and to grow businesses, creating much needed jobs. I'm excited to see how this work will be bolstered by the implementation of the Growth for Work or the Growth for Jobs plan, which was tabled earlier this year. Through the Red Tape Reduction Unit, the Western Cape Government is actively supporting job creation in the province and building on the momentum that we already have as the province with the lowest unemployment rate and with booming industries in agriculture and tourism, to name a few. It is innovative governance, Speaker, in tough conditions that have become a hallmark of DA governments, where we go the extra mile to deliver for our residents, and this has become commonplace. If you doubt that, simply look at the stark contrast with the efforts or lack thereof in other provinces and nationally. I welcome today's robust engagement on this issue, highlighting how we can further bolster our efforts in the Western Cape and share a leaf with provinces and national.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. I now recognise the Honourable Nkondlo.
Enkosi Somlomo. The ANC supports all efforts to create a business-friendly environment, both in the province and nationally, where businesses can thrive and where economic opportunities can be realized. Red tape reduction is one of the means through which this can be achieved. I'm actually very worried, Speaker, of what the DA is doing to a very young, bright young woman in the chairperson of this particular committee. It reminds me and how she is actually wrongfully conscientized. It reminds me of the writing of Ned Nakasa, which stated in his observations very early in the 70s, 80s, Afrikaner youth got a raw deal. In a statement released by MEC Wenger last month, she said between 2019 and 2022, the red tape reduction intervention saved the province's economy 1.85 billion. It is a matter of serious concern that the department's red tape reduction unit, launched over a decade ago, still can't provide simple information of how many black-owned companies and businesses owned by members of the previously marginalized groups have been assisted by the red tape reduction unit. The unit's case management system has not yet reached this level of analysis, according to the MEC. And as we are always told that this government operates on evidence-based, one of the basic lessons on monitoring and evaluation, MEC, is around results chain, results-based monitoring and evaluation, which looks not only on outputs, which is the amount of money that you have spent, and you can stand here. What we want to see is outcome and impact. In any way, we have to go back to what would have been your theory of change when you were considering red tape reduction. Were you interested in the big white corporate companies, both in the country and nationally, or were you considering those that are entrapped and encircled in the Cape Flats, in township-based environment?
Honourable Nkondlo, please conclude. Your time has expired.
Allow me, Speaker, to commend President Ramaphosa for establishing this red tape reduction task team situated in his private office. The task team's areas of interest include informal trading permits and licenses and early childhood.
Thank you, Honourable Nkondlo. Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I want to echo one of the previous speakers to say that government's role is to create an environment for economic growth. It's not government to create jobs, it's government to create that environment.
Order, members, order.
So, Speaker, if I can say the following, Premier Alan Winde said in 2015...
Order, members. Honourable Christians, please take your seat. Honourable members, there's a member on the floor. Honourable members, there's a member on the floor. Please allow the member to make his contribution. Order, members. Honourable Christians, you may continue. Honourable members on my left and on my right. There is a member on the floor. Honourable Christians, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. 2015, Premier Alan Winde said red tape makes it difficult for businesses to succeed, grow, create jobs and invest in infrastructure and development. And that's why the red tape reduction unit was established way back. But I want to know from the Minister if there is stories how, because businesses, I believe, are still getting paid after 30 days. And in this economic climate we are, they need to be paid on time. So I want to ask the Minister two things. Tell us, is this unit making progress, and is it helping businesses to thrive in this struggling economy? I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Christians. Honourable members, before I recognize Honourable Klaas, Honourable members, please, when there's a member on the floor, please allow that member to make the contributions. I at no point want to stifle debate or interjections, but the minute you start drowning out the speaker, it becomes a problem. Order. Order. Honourable Klaas.
Of the Democratic Alliance is made to believe that Western Cape is an independent country from South Africa. That is why they spend too much time comparing the province with the rest as the country. This kind of thinking owes its roots from system of colonialism and apartheid, which used to separate this country along the lines of colonies and Bantustan. It then explains why the Premier recently went to holiday in the US, which is discussed as a trip.
Order, members. Honourable Klaas, please take your seat. Honourable Klaas, please take your seat. Honourable Marais, is that a point of order? Please take your seat, Honourable Klaas.
Yes, Speaker.
What's your point of order?
There is a rule that you cannot read your speech here. You can refer now and then to it, but you can't read your whole speech.
Order,
I want you to rule on it, sir.
Order.
I will add myself.
Order, members.
I will add myself the time.
Order, members.
It's all for playing.
Order, Honourable Klaas. Honourable Klaas. Order, members. Honourable Marais, I note your point of order. I'm not going to dictate to the member how he must deliver his contribution. Honourable member, but can I please also ask that you address me and not address the Minister directly? Honourable Klaas.
It then explained why the Premier recently went to holiday in the US, which he is discussed as a trip to negotiate the African Code and the Opportunity Act in behalf of the Western Cape. That is so because their Premier sees himself as the president of the independent Western Cape state, sometimes which is an illusion. We were told that this red tape initiative saves billions of rands for the provincial economy, and that is crucial for job creation. However, we know that this initiative was created for big business to save money and for the friends to be able to score government tenders in the extent of kickbacks, donation to DA coffers, gratitude for DA officials to form fully paid up holiday trips overseas. This so-called red tape initiation does not center for many of these small business operating in the province. This provincial government will not able to show us how much small business alone in the province served as a result of this initiative. That is why we have many taxis in the province operating without permits due to the red tape imposed by the Provincial Department of Mobile together with the provincial regulatory entity.
Honourable Klaas, your time has expired. Please conclude.
Can the minister tell us how much small business alone in the province were able to save as a result of this red tape initiative?
Thank you, Honourable Klaas. Please take your seat. Honourable Murray, I recognise you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I would just like to start by saying that the DA is a party that believes in agency. It is a party that believes in the individual.
Order, members.
While I understand that the ANC might find it strange to see a 28-year-old woman as a member of parliament, it is normal for the DA who respects the individual. Speaker, I also want to ask, and through you, does the President believe that having a red tape reduction unit will ever be effective, particularly within his cabinet? And the reason I ask that is because he placed it in the presidency rather than in the respective department in which it should have been sit. So with that, does he think his own cabinet is so corrupt that he can't delegate them with the responsibilities that are due to them? The national government and other provinces should take a note of what is happening in the Western Cape. Governments and regulations at all levels should not be a limiting factor for economic development. They should be driving growth, and they should ensure that residents are upskilled, that their welfare needs are met. They also need to ensure that the right infrastructure is in place so that we can grow businesses and unlock jobs. That is why the Red Tape Reduction Unit is such an important initiative. By actively helping businesses to navigate the slew of government bureaucracy that exists, the Western Cape government is going above and beyond to help our business people, to get our residents working, and help our young people become entrepreneurs. I want to stress that last point, young entrepreneurs. Now, the Premier and Minister recently visited the US, and while some members might refer to it as a holiday, they're quite confused. The Premier and the Minister were not on holiday. They were saving face for South Africa. They were representing our country and saving jobs, while the President was an embarrassing state to our country in Poland. What happened there? Why was he there? What kind of peace mission was that?
Honourable Murray, please take your seat. Honourable members, on both sides of the House, this is the third time that I've asked you to please allow the member on the floor to not be drowned out by your interjections. Honourable members, this is the last time that I'm going to request you to please allow the members on the floor to make their contributions. Do not drown out the speaker. Honourable Maran, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker. Then you must also remind the Honourable Murray not to address us directly, but to address us through you as the Speaker, because you were speaking directly to us, and therefore you were prompted a response. You will respond harshly if she address us directly.
Okay, Honourable Maran, Honourable Murray, can I remind you to please address the Speaker? All further contributions today, please, members. This is a reminder to please address the Speaker. Honourable Murray, you may continue. Order.
Speaker, thank you.
Order, Honourable members.
I again would like to remind the opposition through you, Speaker, that this is a party that believes in individualism and agency. We are not defined by the collective as the ANC ideologically believes. The DA understands that too much government regulation deters economic activity and is taking steps to address that at a provincial level. Just imagine what we could achieve when we win the union buildings in 2024. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. I now recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Wenger.
Thank you. Cutting red tape is a key priority for this government because businesses, especially small businesses, which are so important to growing the economy and creating jobs, should be able to focus on expansion rather than being bogged down by red tape and bureaucracy. This is why I'd like to celebrate with you that between May 2019 and September 2022, the Western Cape's red tape reduction and ease of doing business interventions resulted in a saving of 1.8 billion rand to the provincial economy. In addition to the financial savings achieved, the red tape reduction case management system recorded a total of 519 cases in the last financial year with a resolution rate of 93%.
Order.
I was particularly pleased with the fact that the surveys conducted with businesses who have logged cases on the system reported an 80% satisfaction rate, indicating that the unit is able to effectively assist in making it easier to do business in our province. I'm also excited to confirm that today I'm announcing the Municipal Red Tape Reduction Challenge Fund for 23-24, which will fund interventions in municipalities aimed at reducing the regulatory burdens, improving business processes through digitization, and ensuring effective communication to businesses. Through these interventions, the main goal we aim to achieve is to improve development planning and building environment in which businesses operate in local municipalities. In answer to Honourable Murray, in addition to the impressive work done by the Red Tape Reduction Unit, this government also works on a number of key areas to unlock economic growth by making it easier to do business. We're moving from a purely red tape reduction perspective to an ease of doing business approach, which helps all businesses, big and small, in the economy. And we include ourselves in that. Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. A report by the National Treasury in 21-22 indicated that the Western Cape government paid 99% of all invoices for goods and services within 30 days. In addition, in our ease of doing business approach, we're looking at work to improve the efficiency of the Port of Cape Town with the aim of boosting our proudly Western Cape exports so that we can help exporters to expand and create more jobs. We're also mapping the regulatory constraints for top export commodities and undertaking an analysis to identify sector barriers and engage regulators across all levels to create an enabling export-friendly environment. Another key area that inhibits the growth of our economy is the broken South African visa regime. The fact is that the current visa regime is a significant deterrent to investment and the expansion of existing businesses. It is costing us jobs and economic growth at a time when we can ill afford to lose either. It's for this reason we've also introduced a dedicated project that will provide evidence-based research to assist the Western Cape government to advocate for visa reform in South Africa. This is outcome and impact. While we know that there's still much work to be done, our efforts are bearing fruits, and which is why, according to the most recent quarterly labour force survey, that 62,000 new jobs were created in the last quarter in the Western Cape. And that is why we focus and continue to focus on removing barriers to growth, cutting red tape, and the regulatory burdens on businesses, and why we're on a mission to take decisive action to ensure that the Western Cape is the easiest place to do business in South Africa.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Order, Honourable members. Members, that brings us to the end of interpellations. We will now deal with questions as printed on the question paper, and I wish to advise Honourable members that once the Honourable Premier or the Minister has started to reply to the oral question as printed on the question paper, Honourable members must use the chat facility for the sitting for those online and an indication by hand for those in the chamber if you wish to ask a follow-up question. There are 4 opportunities for follow-up questions, but the Honourable member who has posed the initial oral question as printed on the question paper will have the first opportunity for a follow-up question. Thereafter, other Honourable members may then use the remaining opportunities to ask a follow-up question. Honourable members, before I recognise the Premier, I just want to remind members that question 1 on the question paper stood over from this Thursday, the 15th of June 2023, as agreed to by the House. I now recognise the Honourable Premier. Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Can I just
Is
draw
that a
the-
point of order?
Just in terms of the order paper, may I address you?
You sure?
Thank you, Speaker. The question paper for oral reply, questions 3 and 6, to stand over, and the members have accordingly been consulted.
Thank you very
Speaker.
much. So noted. Honourable members, I now recognise the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for the question. The service provider in question has provided specialist research, advisory, analyst, and skills development services to the ICT resources of the province. Their extensive set of services and resources, both local and international, are primarily accessed through the membership subscriptions for Western Cape Government's ICT professionals, and no consulting work was or is sourced from the company in question. The total cost of the subscription for the Department of the Premier and the Provincial Treasury for 2022-23 was 3.09 million rand, and the estimate for the financial year is 5.72 million rand. The increase is due to the development and research needs of many additional officials. As it relates to the image of the Western Cape, or the Western Cape Government, admittedly, it was disappointing to learn of the involvement of the company in question in the SARS case. However, we are confident that the company resources that was involved in the SARS case has never in any way been linked to the rendering of any Western Cape Government services.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. I recognise the Honourable Doug Moore. Can I just get an indication if there's any follow-ups? Honourable Fry. Okay. And, all right, Honourable Doug Moore, please do your first follow-up.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you as well to the Premier for the response. Clearly, in developing my follow-up question, I think we must be clear that we are here talking about Royal Security, the company.
Order, members. Honourable Doug Moore, please address
the name
me.
Provided to the Premier's office is Royal Security, previously owned by Mr. Roy Moodley, and the amount in question is not 3 plus 2 million, but 282 million. And the Premier, surprisingly, Speaker, did not mention the fact that rival bidders have actually taken this matter to court, accusing the provincial government, the DA provincial government, of bid rigging. And it is very clear that in the court papers it is alleged that the test was failed because the Cape Town officers were essentially a shell and not able
Honourable
to...
Doug Moore, I just want to remind you that this is a follow-up question.
Yeah. It's important that I give the context. And
No.
I want to ask
Order,
the
members,
Premier,
honourable
so
members.
I want to ask the Premier. I want to ask the Premier that was he aware that in terms of royal security, that the officials of his department then provided a waiver and went to the Durban office because the Cape Town office did not meet these particular criteria?
Thank you, Honourable Doug Moore. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that the name given to our office was definitely not Royal. It was a different name.
Thank you very much. Honourable Fry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Through you, I'd like to ask the Premier, what are the ways that this government can institute or strengthen checks and balances within its processes so as to ensure issues like this or matters like this do not arise in the future? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Fry. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. Obviously, and you heard the Honourable Leader of the Opposition talking about, my office just confirmed that the number that was given, the name that was given was not Royal, it was a different company. And that's obviously why the answer was as such. But of course, the issue that the Honourable Doug Moore is speaking about is also in the public domain. I have been very vocal on this specific case. In actual fact, today is 1 year since the Zondo Commission report, in which this company is one of the companies that do business with government, that come out of that report. And it's 1 year later and zero has happened. And that is the real critical issue, is that when a company's name appears in a report, as I said in the last time in this House, there is no mechanism other than the blacklisting mechanism that National Treasury has in order to remove that company from the supplier database. That is the mechanism that one uses to exclude a company. And of course, that is why I have engaged with our supply chain people in the province. I have, as of this week, also further engagement with our supply chain people and understanding these issues, and that's why I have again solicited the support or information from the National Prosecuting Authority on specifically all of these cases, because the same would apply to a bank. A number of our banks appeared in that same report. The same would apply to many businesses, and does that mean that they all must be removed from the database? And this is the difficulty that we have. Without going into all of the detail of the company that was now mentioned secondary by the Leader of the Opposition, at the end of the day, legally this company doesn't have that person as its shareholder. That is the father of the person who is the shareholder. Does the system legally allow us within the rules and within the law to say, but your father is linked to whatever in an untested court case, and therefore we are ending a tender agreement? And these are the real difficulties that we face. So, of course, I've contacted the National Prosecuting Authority on all of these cases to say, what is happening? Why are none of these cases being tested in court? The Minister of Justice, exactly the same question to the Minister of Justice, to the National Treasury, because they are the one instance that does have the tool, but the tool is not being used. And then, of course, I again have rewritten to the South African Police Services again about these companies to say, please, can you give me any detail of whether there's been any arrests or any detail that I can use in a process of supply chain to make sure that this government does not do business with companies that are found guilty of corruption or involved in corruption or in gangsterism or in any other kind of crime, because you definitely do not want to be doing business with anybody involved in criminal activity.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. I recognise the Honourable Mvimbi, and then Honourable Dagmar, you have the last opportunity.
Honorable Premier, in view of the fact that you are vocally critical of the activities that happen at the state capture, and this company was actively involved, was also mentioned there as well, are there any plans of you trying to recover the money that this company has made out of the provincial government, like it is the case at national government? Because I believe the company was made to pay some of the money, and then also is the provincial government going to recoup some of its money from this company? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Mvimbi. Honourable Premier.
Thank you. Obviously, at the moment, we have a legal contract. And hopefully there is a court case at the moment, and that will also be very good at giving us that.
Honourable Mvimbi, you had an opportunity to pose your question. The Premier is now responding.
Thank you very much. And
Premier?
Obviously, if it is found to be guilty, then we would want to recoup every single cent. So the answer would be yes.
Thank you very much, Premier. Honourable Dagmar.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, it's clear that on the one hand, the Premier is talking about Bain. On the other hand, we are talking about royal security. But what I want to ask him, because all these companies have been linked and identified to state capture, I want to ask the Premier, when he was MEC for Economic Development, can he confirm that despite the fact that his own officials told him that this particular work could be done internally, that he, as the MEC for Economic Development, instructed his HOD to appoint McKinsey? And further to that, I would like to ask the Premier if anyone in his office had a private meeting with a particular individual in McKinsey who was also then directly appointed. McKinsey, of course, Speaker, being one of the companies fingered during the Zondo Commission. So I'm asking you directly, did your officials tell you that they could do the work, and did you overrule them and send your HOD into that meeting and tell them that...
Order.
That's
Order,
what I want
members.
to know.
Order, members. Honourable Premier, before you respond, there was 2 follow-up questions. I just want to remind members you have an opportunity to ask 1 follow-up question as per the rules. So, Premier, I'm not going to dictate how you answer that question, but please note that members, there's 1 opportunity for 1 follow-up question. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. And obviously, Speaker, as you said, I can answer as I see fit. So first of all, the original name given by the Leader of the Opposition was a different company to any of the other companies that he's mentioned here today. It was Gartner. Then, of course, he's now mentioned Bain, McKinsey, Royal. I think the Honourable Member is quite confused. He does not know exactly which question he wants to ask. But I stand by those answers.
Order, members.
I stand by those answers that I've given in this House 2 weeks ago, and I stand by the answers that I've already given in the questions. And then the last question, it is absolutely no, because politicians in this government do not get involved in supply chain.
Thank you very much, honourable members. That brings us to the end of question. Order, members. That is the end of question 1 that stood over. We now move over to new questions. Question 1, as printed on the question paper. I recognise the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Honourable Class for the question. Answer to 1, the Constitution does not contemplate secession. And number 2, the Western Cape government does not support secession. Rather, the Executive Council of the Western Cape, under the leadership of myself, supports the decentralization and devolution of certain critical functions and powers away from the national government to more localized centers of power, such as provinces and municipalities, as contemplated in our Constitution.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. I recognise Honourable Class. You have the first opportunity for a follow-up question, and then Honourable Fry.
If you indeed do not support secession of the Western Cape from the rest of South Africa as a premier, what prompted your visit to the US under pretense of serving the AGO agreement between South Africa and the USA? I ask this question because the agreement in the question is between 2 nation states and not between a state and a province, as you would like to believe.
Honourable Class, Honourable Class, you have posed your questions. Members, when you do a follow-up question, it's not for you to make a statement. You just pose the follow-up question to the response by the Minister or the Premier. So, Honourable Class, you have posed your follow-up question, Honourable Premier, and I recognise you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would really urge the Honourable Class to go and read his Constitution and have a look at concurrent powers.
Honourable Class, you can ask another follow-up question, but you have posed your question. So, no, not now, not yet, not yet. I first need to recognize. Order, members. Order. Honourable Fry, I recognise you.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Through you to the Premier, how would the Western Cape Provincial Powers Bill be beneficial to devolving the devolution of powers to capable local and provincial governments? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. So again, as I said to the Honourable Class, and I thank him for asking this question, he needs to understand his Constitution, which talks about concurrent powers. So obviously the concurrent power of trade and tourism, but the Honourable Fry, thank you very much for that question, because it links exactly to what the Honourable Class was talking about. And that is where in the Constitution of our country, it says that the basis is that we should move decision-making, management and powers closer to the people where the competency lies within local government and provincial government. And of course, and I want to thank the Honourable Fry as being part of the new bill, which says, how do we enhance those constitutional powers even further? And specifically, when national government absolutely fails the citizens of this country. And we know the national government is failing us in policing and keeping our citizens safe. We know that the national government is failing us in enabling us to catch a train to work or
Order, members.
To catch a train to work or school or hospital. We know that the national government is failing us in our ports. We know that the national government, and I could go on and on, because the national government fails in so many areas. And that is why the Constitution is absolutely supported in a way that we actually need to enable. And that's why I think that the idea around this piece of legislation that the Honourable Fry is talking about is excellent, because it really creates a legislative framework for provincial governments to enable them to serve their people where national government fails.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Honourable members, if you want to pose a question as a follow-up, there's one opportunity left. Honourable Class, order, members. You may pose your follow-up question.
So, why are you creating a parallel unwarranted dialogue with this US, absent a mandate to do so from South Africa in the country?
Thank you very much, Honourable Class. Honourable Premier, did you get that question?
I got the question, and I say again to the Honourable Class, he comes from the premise that AGOA is a bilateral trade agreement between countries. It is not. He needs to go and understand that as well. It is an act. It is an act. It is not a bilateral agreement.
Order.
Then he must go back to his constitution. He must go back to his constitution, which talks about concurrent powers, Mr. Speaker. The man is sitting in a legislative space, a representative in this parliament.
Premier, please take your seat. Honourable members, is that a point of order?
I just want to check with you, really, Speaker, because now the Premier is just making reflections on member classes' understanding or not of the Constitution, you know, and even going towards doubting why he's even here, but he doesn't understand the question, instead of answering the question that is given. Is that really is that really
parliamentary?
Parliamentary.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kama. Honourable Kama, that is not a point of order. As a presiding officer, I cannot dictate how a question is responded to, and I don't adjudicate on that. And based on my listening, there was no, the Premier didn't refer to the integrity of the member. Order, members. You may address me. Order, members. There's a member on the floor.
Talk about the integrity of the person, or he has a right to talk about or to answer what has been asked. I just wanted clarity on this.
Thank you, Honourable Class. I have just ruled on exactly that point. I cannot dictate how a question is answered or the content of the response, and I've listened really carefully, and I do not think that the Premier has referred or reflected on the integrity of you. So, Honourable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much.
Order, Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Class, what's your point of order?
Point of correction. from you, Speaker. You said it didn't refer the member to me, but he said why I'm here in the legislature, but I don't know nothing. What
Thank you, honourable class. Honourable class, I've ruled. I didn't say it didn't refer to you. I said it didn't reflect on your integrity. If you have an objection to my ruling, please follow the process. You cannot. It's unparliamentary and against the rules to question my rulings in the House. Premier, in the interest of time, I'm going to let you continue.
Thank you very much. So just reflecting back on the question first of all stated that I was acting incorrectly in the place of where a state-to-state agreement exists. And so that's the first mistake that the honourable member made, is that this is not a trade co-agreement between two states. This is an act of this is an act within the
Honourable
American
Premier, please
Parliament.
take your seat. Honourable class, is that a new point of order? Because you cannot raise a point of order on a point of order. Order, members, there's a member on the floor.
The correction is that I said he is not correct. I didn't say.
Honourable class, that is not a point of order. That is, please take your seat. The Premier is responding. If you have another follow-up question, there's one opportunity left in this, but you cannot correct the response because you do not like it. That is not a point of order. Honourable Premier, you may continue.
So again, the question from the honourable class, I have every single power to interact with the United States and the committees in the United States on a piece of their legislation that benefits the businesses and the citizens in this province. I have absolutely the right to do it because I am empowered to do so through the Constitution, which says we have a concurrent power on trade.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable class, do you have another follow-up question?
Yes, I've got a follow-up question.
Order, members. Honourable Premier and Honourable Maran, there's a follow-up question.
My follow-up question is that.
Order, members. Honourable class, please speak to me. Honourable members, there's a member on the floor.
My question was that the Premier was there as not and has been asked by the South Africa. He goes there, has been asked, but he stand for South Africa. That's why the question raised from the US to want to intervene to the act. That is why we said he acted parallel. Thank you.
Honourable Premier. Honourable Premier, please say it in the record.
Thank you, Speaker. That was not a question.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of question 1. I now recognise the Premier for question 2.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition for the question. The answer is as follows. It should be noted that it is the primary responsibility of the municipality itself to prevent corruption within its organisation. Again, as our constitution, we have 3 spheres of government. Notwithstanding the above, in terms of and in accordance with the provincial government's functions and responsibilities relating to monitoring and support of local government, the following measures have been put in place to prevent corruption. The minister responsible for local government assesses the appointment of senior managers to ensure due diligence and compliance with the applicable legal framework governing such appointments. The provincial government and minister responsible for local government institute litigation to challenge unlawful appointments made in respect of senior managers. 3, allegations received within the mandate of the provincial government are assessed after following due process to determine if there is a reason to believe that maladministration, fraud, corruption, or any other serious malpractice has occurred or is occurring in a municipality in the province. Then next is independent forensic investigators have been appointed in terms of Section 106 of the Local Government Municipal Systems Act. Next is provincial government officials engage with and assist, where requested, other organs of state with measure to prevent corruption. Provincial government officials sit on the Local Government Anti-Corruption Forum Steering Committee and participate in the forum itself. The provincial government assists municipalities with the development of bylaw policies and standard operating procedures. Provincial government strengthens internal control through monitoring and supporting municipalities with the effective functioning of risk management, internal audit functions, and audit committees. As per Section 5(4) of the Municipal Finance Management Act, number 56 of 2003, the MFMA, the Provincial Treasury has an oversight role over the financial affairs of municipalities and other institutions in the local sphere of government and must promote the objectives of encapsulated or as encapsulated in the MFMA. Provincial Treasury also monitors the implementation of adopted budgets and adjustment budgets on a monthly, quarterly, and semi-annual basis through the year-end monitoring, the IYM process, which serves as an early warning mechanism to identify the correct undesirable performance. In terms of Section 5.3 of the MFMA, Act 56 of 2003, a provincial treasury may assist municipalities and municipal entities in building their capacity for efficient, effective, and transparent financial management. Next bullet point. The supply chain management system is governed by Section 217 of the Constitution, which provides for the procurement of goods and services in the public service, which should be conducted through a system of fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective processes. In relation to the above, the Provincial Treasury is mandated to provide support and training to the municipalities in the Western Cape on the regulatory framework that governs supply chain management. Next, to bring to effect the above obligation, it is required that Provincial Treasury, local government supply chain mechanisms as endeavoured to build supply chain management capacity at municipalities within the Western Cape province. Next, the Provincial Treasury mandate is embedded under 4 main quadrants which seek to capacitate municipality supply chain management units and line functions in areas of deficiencies. SEM governance and policy, SEM training and capacity building, SEM technology and systems management, SEM strategic procurement and sourcing strategies. Also, continue reducing red tape and streamlining processes in supply chain management while maintaining a level of compliance and improving access to procurement opportunities. In other words, good governance. Then the continuous supply chain management training and support program for municipalities and suppliers focused on addressing gaps and continuous improvement within supply chain management. Then, and it is the last bullet point here, the provincial government monitors and supports municipalities with the implementation of the disciplinary regulations and the formation and establishment of disciplinary boards. Then the answer that I've got also gives a full spreadsheet of the training programs in each of the municipalities, the dates that those training programs took place, the topics of the training programs and the workshops. For example, it could have been financial misconduct, or it could have been councillor seasonal school, how to maintain public accountability to ensure effective and efficient service delivery towards communities, and so it goes on, a few pages of it, and of course the member will receive that spreadsheet as well.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. I recognise the Honourable Lekker. Is the Honourable Lekker, Honourable Fry?
Thank you, Speaker. I think the first step that the Premier must take to prevent corruption in municipalities is to recognize that the DA is corrupt. If the Premier wants to prevent corruption in our municipalities, he must admit that the DA is corrupt to its core, and that it just has the ability to cover up its corruption better. And my follow-up question...
Order, members.
Man.
Honourable Lekker, speak to me.
My follow-up question is, given that the Premier meets weekly with the Mayor of
Order.
the City of Cape Town. What has his discussion with the Mayor been in regards to the DA corruption in the City of Cape Town?
Thank you, Honourable Lekker. Honourable Premier.
Would the honourable member please supply me with this so-called DA corruption, so then I can answer to it.
Thank you very much, Honourable Fry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Given what we've seen in local government in Cameron, Beaufort West and Laingsburg, I'd like to ask the Premier, given that his comprehensive answer to the question, when will these initiatives be implemented and how will they be done so? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
Thank you. These are already in place. They are part of the program in which we work with local government as a separate sphere of government, but we do have a constitutional mandate in oversight and in support. I also want to say that there are definite areas of improvement, and part of the last PCC meeting with the President and the other premiers, it was a lengthy discussion on the failures at local government level. And the interesting thing is listening to the Honourable Lekker and then the municipalities as mentioned by the Honourable Fry, that those municipalities who are always errant in their audit outcomes, 106 applications for support because they can't manage their municipalities properly, always seem to be the ANC-run coalition municipalities in this province. But we have said that there is an issue around Section 106.
Order.
And it is supported by
Order, members.
the National Minister of Local Government, as well as it got a good support from other premiers to say that we really have to have a re-look at provinces' ability to actually intervene, because we all know in South Africa that Section 106 really needs a rethink and a redesign. We have not really managed to use it sufficiently well in our country to address some of the major failures. And of course, local government is critical because it is the government that is the closest to the people. It is where direct services are given to our citizens, whether it be water, whether it be electricity, whether it be refuse removal. Those direct services are local government services. And of course, we need to make sure that we improve wherever possible.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Honourable Mvimbi and then Honourable Lekker, and that will bring us to the end of the follow-up questions for this particular question.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. In view of corruption in local government, I just want to find out from the Premier, as he is aware of the activity that took place in the George municipality, where the son of a councillor in George, in the name of Mr. Cronje's son, are you not regarding that as corruption? And I would also like to find out whether the corruption that is taking place in the Asekwa municipality, are you also not regarding that as corruption? Thank you very much.
Honourable members, I just want to remind you again, you have an opportunity to ask one follow-up question.
One sentence.
It's two questions, one follow-up question as per the rules. Honourable Premier, again, like the previous time, I'm not going to dictate how you respond to that question, but I just want to, for the record, note that there was two follow-up questions.
Thank you. Yes, you can probably ask 40 questions in one sentence, but both of those questions actually need the same answer. And of course, issues are raised every single day. And I want to caution the honourable member to, when he makes these statements, of course, all of these are alleged corruption, and they need to be investigated. And they absolutely, and that's why you'll see we have forensic units in place. And of course, over and above forensic units, we also have a criminal justice system. And I trust that the honourable member, because we know combating of...
Order, members. The Premier is responding.
We all know that the Combating of Corrupt Activities Act actually puts the onus on any individual within South Africa being aware of corrupt activities is actually asked to lay charges at the police, and not doing so actually makes themselves liable. And so again, I think that the honourable member needs to make sure that that happens, because I've heard it being said in this House and you need to make sure that any of these allegations are investigated. Our country is plagued by too much corruption. If all the money that got stolen in our country through corruption was actually put into service delivery, we would be in a very different position right now.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Lekker. Honourable Kama, you cannot ask a question to the Premier across the floor. The last opportunity is the Honourable Lekker. Order, members. Honourable Lekker, please take your seat. I'm not going to continue until Honourable Kama, you finished dialoguing across the floor. Can you order, members? Honourable Lekker, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. It is common knowledge that law enforcement officers gathered in the office of Councillor Malusi Boy in the city of Cape Town. Will the Premier tell this House what has his government done, particularly in the allegations that were leveled against that DA councillor? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lekker. Honourable Premier.
Again, obviously, from a constitutional point of view, we...
Honourable members. Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable members, we have guests in the gallery. I've been asking you the entire sitting to not drown out the speakers. I don't know what's happening today. But can I please ask that you respect when the speaker on the floor, but more so that there's citizens watching us, there's guests in the gallery. I trust that this is the last request for your indulgence. Honourable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much. Obviously, for a forensic investigation to take place, someone needs to lay a charge. I can't just say our province is going to investigate every single time anybody arrives in any office in this province. It doesn't work like that, and I'm sure the honourable member knows that.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Premier, Honourable Chief Whip and Honourable Premier, you had an opportunity with this question. I now move on. And just for the record again, question 3 is standing over. I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Allen. Honourable Minister Allen.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I wish to appreciate this question from Member Barnes. I wish to state for the record that this particular question should be directed to the various municipalities. Custodianship of any state-owned houses will either rest with the Department of Infrastructure or the relevant municipality within our province. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I think I've written the same question, in fact, not the same, a similar question, almost a month ago to the MEC. And I have so much interest in it. It's not the same question. I have interest in the question, Speaker, because it's actually said that my response from the question that I was asking as to how many drug dens are in state-owned properties, and then you get an answer that says go and ask the municipality, then it means that really it's a mandate from the DA. However, Speaker, what I want to know now, what is the plan together, the municipality and the government itself, the department, working together? What is their plan to addressing these state-owned houses that are occupied by drug dens of the state? What plans are put in place? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Barnes. Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, Speaker. Let me state categorically, drug houses, whether it is a state-owned house or private property, is unacceptable. We, as a standing committee, Speaker, with Member Kama, together with Member Barnes on that particular committee since the year 2020, was very clear that as a standing committee, we highlighted the amount of known drug houses, knowing it's a scourge, leading to so many communities being extremely vulnerable. So let me state for the record, Speaker, again, whether it is a state-owned house or private properties, it is unacceptable. We are working closely with the South African Police Service, and knowing exactly where those houses are is actually empowering us, because since the Western Cape Police Ombudsman launched his investigation into why SAPS is not shutting down those drug houses, Member Barnes will also remember that that particular investigation was actually substantiated, which confirmed that there was severe lacking in terms of why it was not shut down. So we are working with all law enforcement agencies. The plan in place is joint operations. There's also Section 252 operations that is being conducted. That is also part of the recommendations made by the Police Ombudsman. And I would also, based on this particular question, encourage the members of the Standing Committee to also invite various municipalities, invite various entities, should they have any specific questions in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Just for the record, I've got Honourable Christians, Honourable Kauman, Honourable Bosman. Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Minister, for the reply. Just a question, Minister. You know that drugs tear families and communities apart. You were quoted in the media by saying that the community is the eyes for the police. The communities is out there, they know the known drug houses. What is your department doing in order to make sure that communities are protected when they come to the fore and report these drug houses? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much for that particular question. I think it's very vital, colleagues, that if we track back to the year 2020, the initial reply that I have received when I was the chairperson indicated 252 known drug houses were in our province. 252. Via the Standing Committee, I then queried that particular number because I knew that that number was not correct. The second number we received as a Standing Committee was 1,557 known drug houses. In the last year, we have closed down 458 known drug houses. But as things stand today, the number, which fluctuates each and every quarter, it is now 1,819 known drug houses. And the reason why I say, when we are empowered to know where these drug houses are, we are able to then be targeted in our approach to make sure it is being shut down. And linking my comment now to the question, it's very clear that community members, CPFs, various stakeholders are supplying the information. The Ombudsman's office is still getting information with regards to known drug houses. That goes via the Ombudsman's office to the South African Police Service. It is then verified, and colleagues in this House will know that in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, Section 252, which allows for sting operations, which ultimately verifies whether a house is a known drug house or not. And that operations is ongoing. It is anonymous, and we will never disclose whenever a member of the community, whenever a school principal or any person provides us with information on the whereabouts of a known drug house. That will always be confidential, because we understand that in this environment we are dealing with organized crime, we are dealing with gangsters, and we are dealing with criminals that should ultimately be behind bars. And by shutting down these drug houses, we will slowly but surely dismantle organized crime to ensure that our communities actually live in safer communities. I also want to thank the members of this House that if they have any information and if they have any input with regards to the interventions to tackle this scourge, it will be highly welcomed so that we can take it further under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Kama. Honourable Minister, Honourable Kama.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I want to, and I think we agree with the MEC that whether it's private or state-owned property, the mere fact that it's a drug, is a house where that is identified to be having drug activities. But the question is, surely, if it's state-owned, what is the minister doing to work with other municipalities, which is your local government? We're giving $1 billion here to the city of Cape Town. So we can't be told that we must go to other municipalities. So what are you doing to work with other municipalities to ensure that there is no drug activity that is happening in state-owned properties, because SAPS would have identified that part of the challenge is that we identify a house and some of these houses are state-owned, and we need government to help us. So what are you doing as government to work with other spheres of government to ensure that you close these drug houses which happen in state-owned?
Thank you, Honourable Kama.
Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much. This allows me to answer very broadly, and I do appreciate this particular question from Member Kama. Speaker, crime and the illicit selling of drugs in our communities is an extremely complex matter. What we have done is to work across our entire Western Cape government, knowing that we are working with the Department of Social Development to ensure that the demand for drugs is attended to. We are working closely with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, knowing that our young people need to ensure that they have cultural activities, sporting activities, so that they don't enter a life of gangsterism and crime. We are working extremely closely with municipalities, and it is very tricky. One particular incident that has left me deeply upset was the fact that there was a gentleman, and this particular gentleman in a council-owned property was selling mandrax in this particular area. However, there was a grandmother, there was another daughter, and there was a 7-year-old also living in the same property. We then made sure that sting operations were happening so that that particular perpetrator can be behind bars. It's deeply complex when we consider many of those known drug houses. There would be family members that are also in that property, and to obtain an eviction order is very difficult. But my mission is very clear. I want to ensure that there is no drug houses. When you have lost a family member as a result of drug abuse, when the school I attended in Mitchell's Plain, directly opposite that school, sold drugs to 3 generations, to the grandfather, to the father, and the son, and the grandson. I've seen that personally. So that drug house is no longer in operation. So we are wanting to ensure that we work with all the stakeholders to ensure that SAPS can do the 252s so that we can build a credible case, and that the high flyers, Speaker, those that are controlling the drug trade, that they are able, that they are caught and land up behind bars. So we are working with municipalities, we are working with stakeholders, and especially it is this Parliament that has placed this particular matter front and center. And I will continue to do everything in my power, Speaker, to ensure that these drug houses are shut and that it actually remains shut. The reality is that when the criminal justice system to large extent appears to be broken, when a drug house is considered to be shut because the person that was selling drugs is no longer there and he comes out of jail 2 weeks or 3 weeks later and opens up again, it doesn't bode well for community confidence and for trust in the South African Police Service. So we are working, whether it is state-owned, private property. Also, Speaker, I think it's very clear that the modus of operandi in terms of the selling of drugs has changed, whereas it is happening across our nightclubs, it is happening across open spaces, which is not necessarily just linked to a particular dwelling. But it is a matter where we need this Parliament for everyone to pull in the same direction so that we can ultimately ensure that these perpetrators, those that are crippling our communities, are behind bars. And as a Western Cape government, under the leadership of the Premier, we have received clear instructions that we are needing to ensure that the whole of government approach in terms of the safety plan land in our hotspot areas where drugs is prevalent so that we can eradicate this scourge from our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Through you, Speaker, I think it is important to note that the former President of the country and the former President of the ANC is on record as being in cahoots with gangsters in the Western Cape. And I think we also have to think of the impact of that. I'm reminded of an incident in 2001 when an ANC member, her house was raided because of drugs that were found on her property.
Honourable Bosman, can I just remind you that you must ask a follow-up question?
Thank you for the reminder, Speaker. I was hoping that the Honourable
Order,
Syed would
members.
do it. Honourable Speaker, my question to the Minister would be, since the Minister's department is doing so much to identify and to target drug houses, what role has the South African Police Service, who is the custodian of crime fighting in our province, what role have they played to eradicate the more than 1,800 drug houses in the Western Cape?
Thank you very much. Honourable members.
Thank
Honourable
you so
members.
much, Member Postman.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members. Honourable Minister, you may now continue.
Thank you so much, Member Bosman, for that particular question. When we live in a province where there is potentially, Speaker, a SAPS establishment that is 20 years behind in terms of the resourcing, it does make it extremely difficult for the South African Police Service to eradicate drug houses and those high flyers in our community. But in terms of our oversight, we are working closely with the South African Police Service. And to quote Member Barnes, that we are continuing to see sterling success in terms of the South African Police Service, which contributes to lower murders that we have seen. But we will continue in our fight, Member Bosman, through you, Speaker, to Member Bosman. We will continue in our fight to ensure that we work with all our law enforcement agencies, and that includes the South African Police Service, and with all our departments here in the Western Cape, to ensure that the scourge of drugs is eradicated from our communities. And I trust that the Standing Committee will continue in their fight to ensure that the South African Police Service, Metro Police, and various other municipalities are invited to have these discussions and plans in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that concludes question 4. We will now move on to question number 5. I recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Member Christians, for the questions. Honourable members, we are all well aware that commuter rail services on the Prasa Metro Central Line have not been operational since October 2019 as a result of vandalism, theft, and land invasion. Over 5,000 households have settled on the rail network, including at a number of rail stations. My department has informed me that in June 2021, the Department of Transport sought and received approval from the National Treasury to appoint the Housing Development Agency to manage the relocation of the illegal land occupiers. One of the conditions of this approval was that identified government structures and agencies had to be signed, and they signed an implementation protocol to facilitate the resettlement of the occupiers. This was done and involved national and provincial department, as well as the City of Cape Town and the HDA. Subsequently, after a discussion with the various communities involved, the Minister of Transport tabled a social compact for adoption by the signatories of the IP. The Central Line Relocation Program has also been declared a presidential project. The decision-making and management institutional arrangements consist of a project steering committee and the implementation protocol steering committee. Under the management, there are 5 work streams which are as follows: the land and planning, implementation, funding, stakeholder engagement, and communication. On the 27th of July 2021, PRASA brought a court order application to evict the illegal occupants from its rail reserve. The resultant court order indicated that the process of eviction and relocation to sites in East River had to be completed by the 26th of November 2021. The relocation of these sites could not be effected as a result of a threat of court action. As a result of various delays, PRASA has approached the High Court 3 times for an extension. The latest, which had a cut-off date on the 30th of November 2023 this year. In line with the Prevention of Illegal Eviction from and Unlawful Occupation of Land Act, the court order requires that suitable alternative land with the necessary basic services be secured before any relocation can take place. The relocation process will require in excess of 50 hectares of land. As a result, the envisaged program has divided into 3 stages. Some success has been achieved with stage 1, which has a focus on the Langa station and line. This is referred to as Operation Bakela. A full rezoning application for further identified land is being submitted. In addition, while limited funds are available, A decision has been made to approach the National Cabinet for funding for the remainder of the cost. There have been no meetings of the two committee structures mentioned above since March of this year, although meetings has been scheduled and subsequently cancelled. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I now recognize Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, thank you for that response. Just a question with your interaction with the National Minister. According to the National Minister, the line will be open in December. Is that still on track? Because with your problem with the illegal informal settlements in the area of Lippi, Kailicha, and also Nyanga. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Christians. I hope and I pray that the line can be opened by December, but I have to say it is not possible. With the greatest of intention of the new minister, which I hold in high regard, it is not technically possible for the line to be opened by December. One of the sad incidences that happened a few weeks ago, and we all are aware of it, is the killing of Mr. Luis Nkotla, who was an activist, and he worked with the community in trying to facilitate the relocation of people to a more suitable space of land. Unfortunately, he was murdered. And that is also a setback for the commuters of the Central Line who wishes to get back onto the train. So despite what the National Minister has announced, I can say with confidence it is not going to happen by December, and despite the fact that we want it. Everybody wants the Central Line to be back by the 1st of December, even sooner. But it is not technically possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise Honourable America.
Thank you,
Virtual
platform. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, through you, Minister, considering that safety is a major reason for relocating shack dwellers along the Central Line, are you aware of any action taken by the national government to hold someone accountable for the incident on the Southern Line where passenger safety was compromised when they had to jump off the train and walk along the railway tracks to their destination? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable America. Honourable Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I'm honestly not aware.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mvimbi.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you very much to Honourable Christian for the question, and then also thank you, Honourable Minister, for the very comprehensive response you have given. And I can promise you I won't ask you any question about Putin today, it's because I want you to...
Honourable Mvimbi, please address me and please pose your question.
Honourable Speaker, that I know that there has been quite a lot of efforts that have been made by the national government together with HDA, Department of Transport, to relocate these people. And then also there have not been that much cooperation from the provincial government as well as the city of Cape Town. I just want to understand from the MEC with regard to the ongoing engagement between his department, the national government and other stakeholders. What are the details of land parcel under consideration to relocate the people? Is the land near Mitchell's Plain still under discussion? And how is the department assisting? It's not Putin.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mvimbi. Honourable Minister, again, there was more than one follow-up. I'm not going to dictate how you respond to that.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. If I can just, first of all, the Honourable Member said there's not been cooperation to an extent. And I think that is not fair to say that because it is simply not true. There's been extenuous cooperation from our side, definitely, from the city of Cape Town, in trying to find a solution to this problem. It is not normal that the biggest line in the city of Cape Town is standing still for 3 years. And there's not one person in this province who would legitimately try to stop or stall this process because it's not in our interest. It is not in our economy's interest that people struggle to get to work. It is not in our economy's interest that people have to pay 3 times as more as they should. It is not in any of our interests for the central line to be stalled. So there has been extensive cooperation from our side. I can guarantee the honourable colleague that. The delay, and I think I've mentioned it before in this parliament, and I want to put context to it. When the 111 million rand was transferred on the 31st of March, I said at the time, in fact, when I replied to a question, there should be criminal charges laid against Minister Kubai for transferring money on the 31st of March without any feedback, and why she transferred the money. As I expected, yesterday, I asked my City of Cape Town finance colleague, where is that money? 50 million of that money, honourable members, on the 19th of June, 50 million was still sitting in a bank account. In a country with 42% unemployment, in a country where we have load shedding. You can go back to the minutes of this meeting.
Order,
you can
members.
listen to these minutes when I warned about this, because I
Order.
suspected it was going to happen. You
Order.
can't touch money that you transfer in the middle of nowhere. No one, not even the president, can tell the mayor of Cape Town or us, touch that money. Yes, because I knew it was coming. That's why I said, you can go back to the minutes of my reply. I said criminal charges must be laid, because I knew it was going to happen. So 50 million of that money was sitting there. The City of Cape Town can't touch it. National government can't touch it, because it's sitting somewhere in the middle of nowhere. My colleague Jordan Lewis, as I suspected he will do, and I was hoping he was going to do it, has taken 61 million of that money, written to National Treasury and told them, if you don't reply to us by the 21st of June, we will use that money for services in Kailicha. I've just asked them if they replied yet. They haven't received a response. It is not normal, some of the things our colleagues at National Parliament is doing. 42% unemployment, people don't have toilets in some areas of this country. You just transferred money in the middle of nowhere, expecting it to go somewhere. It is unacceptable, and I hope my colleagues will this weekend, I know normally at conferences, national colleagues come and visit, will whisper in their ears, please don't transfer money in the middle of the desert, because no one can touch it. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. Honourable members, we have come to the end of questions for oral reply. So, Honourable Mvimbi, the time has expired for oral questions. Honourable Mvimbi, is that a point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I ask about the land, not the money. I know about the money. I ask about the land. I know about the money. I said
Honourable
the land
Mvimbi,
in Mitchell's
Honourable
Bay.
Mvimbi, that is not a point of order. You have posed your questions. How the minister chooses to respond is up to the minister. I'm now going to move on. We have come to the end of questions for oral reply. We have now come, order members. We have now come to the end of oral questions for oral reply. We now move on to questions to the Premier without notice in terms of Rule 204. I just want to remind members that 2 follow-ups are allowed, 2 questions to the Premier without notice, but it must be posed by the member who initially poses the question. I recognize the Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question to the Premier would be if LEAP officers are allowed to arrest people. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Barnes. Honourable Premier, order members.
Yes.
Thank you, Premier. Honourable Barnes. Order. Order, members. Members Maran and Windvogel. There's a member next to you on the floor. Honourable Barnes.
Speaker, my first one, before I accept that one of saying yes, because the last time I checked, we were not aware of that. And the Premier must also inform the House when there are rules like that. I'm on that standing committee. We are having gangsters flying around here. Given that the Premier is so passionate about arresting President Putin, can he tell us how many flying gangsters have LEAP officers arrested in the last 5 years in the Western Cape? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Barnes. Honourable Premier.
So I think what the Honourable Barnes is asking is a very serious question. And one would hope that the Honourable Member would actually ask that question so we could have the actual number details, because I'd have to look to the honourable member of the LEAP, the number of LEAP arrests. I mean, I have seen it. I could probably quickly search for it on my laptop. 17,000 arrests that LEAP officers have made. We'd have to then go and interrogate how many of those LEAP officers had arrested gangsters in that process, but they've had many thousands of arrests. And of course,
Order.
The question that the original question that was asked, there are two pieces of legislation that enables LEAP officers to do what they do. And obviously the honourable member knows, because she's been here for quite a while, that when a LEAP officer does arrest someone, of course they've then got to enter those people into the criminal justice system. And so that is when a peace officer or peace officer status, which is what LEAP officers are, they take that individual to the local police station and they then get processed. And of course, a traffic official can also arrest anybody because they have exactly the same piece of legislation that enables them. But of course, the Honourable Barnes also knows that even as a citizen of South Africa within our constitution, you can actually arrest someone. But a peace officer has
Order, members.
And a peace officer within the regulatory environment in which they operate, there are a whole range
Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Kama, I've now warned the members on both the left and on my right hand since we've started the city. This is unacceptable behaviour. There's a complete dialogue happening across the floor while the Premier is responding. If you do not want to ask a follow-up question to the Premier, then can you? I am on the floor. Honourable members, this is the last time I'm going to warn you. Honourable Premier, my apologies for interrupting you.
Thank you, but that interruption was very handy because I need to correct my 17,000. It's actually 15,000 arrests have been effected by our LEAP officers since the coming into the action or putting in place the LEAP officers as part of the safety plan. And of course, they operate within a regulatory environment, and that gives them their powers to arrest.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker,
Honourable Barnes, in order to protect you, can you please take your seat? Honourable Maran and Honourable Windvogel, please allow the member on the floor to pose a follow-up question. You're interrupting, you're drowning out the speaker. Barnes, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I've been worried and I've been thinking how President Putin would have been arrested, but today I got some clarity as to how the process would have been. I think the public also can hear it. But in a nutshell, Speaker, my last question would be, I get statistics here that I wouldn't even get from the MEC. Where is the Premier getting his stats from? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Barnes. Honourable Premier.
There was a number of questions in that follow-up question, and I'll start with the arrest of Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to say to the honourable member that I think she should go and have a look at the regulations and the regulatory powers of peace officers, and she will see in there that it will even say international people are able to be arrested by LEAP officers. Foreign people from other countries, they are even empowered to arrest people in that process. But of course, I think the honourable member also knows that if someone of the ilk of a president of another country was to be arrested, especially based on the court ruling of the International Criminal Court, and I've already said it in this House a few times, obviously the honourable member was not listening to that reply, that no matter what happens, we would have to still go to our local court to get the warrant of arrest because it is a planned arrest. A LEAP officer would arrest an international person if they saw them in front of them doing something wrong. If it was someone who was wanted in another country, for example, Putin, and I've already said in this House, we will go to our courts and we will find that empowering court order so that we can hand it, and we would hand it to the LEAP officer. We would also hand that warrant of arrest to the South African police to execute that arrest. And that is why the president of our country is in such a dilemma at the moment, because he's obliged within South Africa to arrest Putin should he come to this country. That's why he's in this panic to try and get China to host the next BRICS conference. He's trying to persuade President Putin to please log on online and not come to South Africa. So that being the first part of her question. I also want to say that the statistics that the honourable member speaks about are released regularly by the honourable minister in this province, Minister Allen. He releases those statistics regularly, and of course the bulk of those statistics were released at the end of the last quarter results, which was 3 weeks ago. And again, it was really encouraging to see the safety plan and the statistics released on all of those data of whether it's arrests, whether it's firearms. You know that the LEAP officers are now taking more firearms off the street, illegal firearms off the street than SAPs are. We've got 1,200 LEAP officers taking more firearms off the street than the 20,000 SAPs officers in our province. Why? Because there's a focus in specific areas to reduce the murder rate. And in South Africa, those statistics, I spoke about the thousands of arrests, but the most important statistic for me was the 14% reduction in murder again in this province, where the focus is of the safety plan and LEAP officers in the murder hotspots of this province. And it shows you that that is where murder is coming down, because in the rest of the country, it is not coming down, it is going up.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. That brings us to the end of the first oral question. I now recognise the Honourable Pretorius.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Premier, over the past 2 weeks, heavy rain and stormy conditions resulted in flooding, the destruction of property, and some towns being cut off across the province. What, Mr. Premier, disaster management interventions has the Western Cape government implemented to assist communities?
Thank you very much, Honourable Pretorius. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for that question. And I think I'd like to start off by saying that, of course, the floods have been devastating. It is the worst that we've felt in this region for 40 years. And I would like to start off by sending condolences to the families of the 2 individuals who've lost their lives in this flood. I think that is the first thing this House should do. But secondly, over and above that, past the condolences, I want to say that we have a huge debt of gratitude to the very disaster management team that the Honourable Member speaks about. I think they have really shown every time we have a disaster, our disaster management teams, both in the province, but also across all of our municipalities, step in immediately. We need to say thank you to them, but they are the coordinators. When Minister Bradell and I were at the disaster centre earlier this week, 45 organisations have been involved and coordinated through this disaster. And of course, I think of a number of them. I mean, we must think of the volunteers that are out there, whether they are the volunteers at Gift of the Givers, unbelievable work that they are doing, whether they are the firefighters that make themselves available, while not a fire, a flood, but they are there helping citizens in need, whether it's NSRI as a volunteer organization, those soup kitchens and those citizens that are out there making the biggest difference that they can. And it really is shown when we're able to really save lives. I think it could have been so much worse. But at the same time, we must thank from the Air Force to SAPS, to every single organization that comes together, those 45 that get pulled in. And then, of course, I must think of our departments, from the health department and what they do, from social development and what they do. I think about the traffic officials that are out there. I think about the teams that are obviously from Minister Bradell's department at disaster management, the big difference that they have made in this panic. And then I want to say infrastructure. I get a report every single day as to the roads that are closed, the roads that are open, the effects of the flood, and the 11 o'clock report today was that there are still there's 38 roads actually in our province right now that are closed still. We had the opening this morning of the Bainskloof Pass. There are 16 of those blocked passes that have now been opened. 7 are partially opened and working day and night. When we were having the presentation, one of the ladies that work for the Department of Infrastructure, pregnant with twins, in the middle of the night in the pass going through to Worcester, there she is in the rain, in the middle of the night, making sure that things are coordinated and the Yellow Fleet is opening up so we can get movement of people, get movement of goods, emergency vehicles, etc. So I must say that, I think the disaster teams need recognition, but it actually is across the board in South Africa, in the Western Cape, that there really has been unbelievable support to mitigate risk in this huge flood that we've just had.
Thank you, Premier. Honourable Pretorius, your first follow-up.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I will ask one question at a time. Honourable Premier, how important is proactive disaster management preparedness, and was the province's disaster management interventions adequately prepared for the floods? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Pretorius. Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Member. If I didn't know better, I would have said that Minister Bradell planted that question with you, because he has for many years, many years, while being in this government, advocated for more and more budget, more and more preparedness, more and more sharing of best practice around the world with our teams, more and more making our teams available to go to disasters around the world and in other provinces, to enable us to be able to respond, because every disaster is different. Every disaster has its own unique risks and challenges, and I think the evidence is clear that the years and years of investment, the years and years of budgeting, the years and years of improving to make sure we can respond is definitely paying off. I saw at the disaster centre now the modelling that we use on how much rainfall happens, whether a dam breaks or not. They can quickly model as to how far the water spread will be. That's where they go to homes to say you need to evacuate. And the problem is people say, but why must we evacuate? There's no rain or there's no water. And that modelling says in 2 hours, the water is going to hit you. And unfortunately, one of our deaths that happened was someone who said, I refuse to leave my home. And unfortunately, the next day, the person was found drowned. But it is unbelievable that investment is actually giving us the wherewithal to be world-class when it comes to responding to disasters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. Honourable Pretorius.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Premier, over and above the NGOs and the contribution they made that you refer to, has there been any assistance from the national government and other provincial governments during this time to the Western Cape? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. I'm not, well, I know from national government, let me start there. I know that Minister Ngorwana, our Minister of Finance, has already made contact with Minister Wenger to say, please let us know and keep us up to date, because obviously this is a disaster and there are processes that need to follow when a disaster is declared, but we've still got to get there. But so that's the first contact from national government. And of course, we are still repairing those roads. We are still opening those roads. We are still making sure that lives are saved and people are looked after in their halls and in the spaces that have been provided for them. So the real assessment is only starting to happen now. Also, the waters must subside before you can get the real assessment of the damage. But that first question on disaster, I'm pretty certain that when all the data comes in, it will be declared a disaster, but that process must still be followed. So that's the first contact. The second is also the national disaster team. I mean, the national disaster team were actually in the JOC or in the Disaster Management Center when I was there earlier this week, and they have also been involved. I am not too sure from a provincial point of view. We'd have to find that detail. I see Minister Prudel says no, so definitely yes with national on a number of fronts, not necessarily at a provincial level.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. I now recognise the Honourable Syed for your question.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I just wanted to know from the Premier as to when is he going to get his LEAP officers to arrest the CEO of Steinhoff, Marcus Jooste.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
If we need to get a warrant of arrest, I'll be happy to do so and then enable them to do that arrest.
Your first follow-up, Honourable Syed.
Is the Premier not aware that a German court has actually issued a warrant of arrest for Mr. Jooste? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. I did read that. I will actually have a look and see if it is possible. I also wonder whether nationally the ANC are going to operate in exactly the same way that the Honourable Said is saying.
Thank you very much, Honourable Said. Your final opportunity.
So the Premier wants to arrest Vladimir Putin now through the LEAP officers. But will the Premier admit then that his provincial government has double standards, is not interested in dealing with corruption of the funds of those who are poor and those who are downtrodden, of the workers, but he wants to go and arrest global leaders? Thank you. Will he admit? Can he give us a yes or a
members.
No? Thank you.
Honourable Premier.
I heard a little comment from behind me, something about, it's normally
Order.
leaders or readers, but it had something to do with listening. Listening is a real skill. And obviously the Honourable Said worked his questions out on his phone, but he didn't realize that he must change the last question had there been a different answer on the previous question. And so if he'd listened, he would have heard that I already said yes, I would. And in actual fact, I will go and have a look again. I also at the same time say that I do sincerely hope that at his government level that exactly the same thing does happen because, of course, the criminal justice system, the policing where powers actually sit as well also rest at that level. And I presume he will be doing the same. Perhaps we should say this is a competition to see who gets it done first, either the Honourable Said or myself.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier, Honourable Members. That brings us to the end of the time allocated for questions to the Premier without notice. We move on to statements by members in terms of Rule 145. And there will now be an opportunity for members to deliver their member statements. I recognise the DA. I recognise the DA. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, yesterday the City of Cape Town signed an agreement with the French Development Agency, which guarantees an astounding 100 million euros in development financing. This money will be used to improve and expand vital infrastructure in the city, including water and sanitation, as well as urban mobility. Crucially, Speaker, a portion of these funds will also be used to improve and expand the city's energy infrastructure, helping us to achieve our goal of ending load shedding in the city within just a few short years. But more than this, Speaker, we must consider what this investment implies. This money represents international recognition and acknowledgement of a fact that all of us in the Western Cape have known for a very long time. DA governance works. France's Development Bank knows that its funding will be effectively spent for the maximum benefit of our people. The funding will not be stolen, it will not be wasted, it will be put to the use to build infrastructure and move the city and the province forward. We congratulate Mayor Hill Lewis and the City of Cape Town for securing this funding, and we look forward to seeing these wonderful improvements as it builds.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bartman. I recognise the ANC.
Thanks, Speaker. The Stormers will never represent South Africa in a World Cup. We found ourselves with the Western Cape government not happy to be a provincial government. Also, our GUA is an act which provides eligible countries, sub-Saharan countries, African countries, with duty-free access to US markets, not individual provinces. And therefore, Speaker, your decision to go on the taxpayers' funded jacket to the US during the Western Cape winter storms, which left thousands displaced and claimed 2 lives of 2 people who was gross act of negligence and dereliction of duty. It was a show of how Premier Windy's priorities are out of touch with the needs of the people. The storm caused extensive damage to infrastructure as well as agriculture, which the provincial government established to between 750 million and 1 billion for the province agriculture sector. We are disheartened by the reports of severe damage to several houses in Transnex's housing projects, which damaged roofs, windows and walls. Our thoughts and prayers are with affected families, and we call on relevant authorities to urgently intervene. The handover of these houses began around March last year, in part of phase 1 of the project. It is too early for these houses to be falling apart. In fact, March this year. It's March this year. It is too early for these houses to be falling apart. This exposes the cancer of poor quality workmanship in the construction of government low-cost housing. The contractors awarded the tender for this project must be investigated and held accountable. Immediate action should be taken to remedy the situation. As a result of substandard construction practices, families have been left vulnerable and exposed to cold and rainy weather. Like in the case of Mama Cynthia Bless, who continues to live under terrible
Honourable
conditions.
Maran, please conclude. Your time has expired.
With a disabled son in the Witzenberg municipality. This government, through MEC Simmers and MEC Bredell, will not do anything.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maran.
Families. I thank you.
I recognise the EFF.
Honourable Speaker, all of us we are reading. I don't know what was the confusion from the old man. The economic freedom fighters would like to take opportunity to condemn the DA-led City of Cape Town municipality and its mayor, Giordine Hill Lewis, for their constant threat of eviction against homeless people residing outside the Castle of Good Hope on the land owned by the National Department of Public Works. The bullying tactics and arrogance by the DA mayor in to attempt to force a national department to yield to its demands leave a lot of desire. This testimony of what happened when minority party in the country is given a little bit of power, they and try to rule to the courts. The same city does not even have shelters or alternative accommodation to house homeless people. All they are concerned about is hide these poor homeless people from the view of tourists, whilst pushing the propaganda that is these homeless people are not evicted, that the image of these tourists attract will tarnished. However, the opposite of that has been proven to be true, as the CEO of the castle indicated that in the past 2022, the number of tourists visit the castle has fact increased from 33,000 to 67,000 people. Tourists do not only want to see beauty of Cape Town, but also poverty that goes within it. As homeless people are neglected by city and provincial government without any job opportunities or provision of shelter in order to assess whether particular government party is able to deliver in the service delivery mandate. One has to look at the manner in which treats the poor, the homeless, and the marginalized. And we know by now that
Honourable Klaas, your time has expired. Please conclude.
DA will receive 0.
Thank you, Honourable Klaas. I recognize the DA.
In approving of this, what we want them to approve.
Honourable Klaas, your time has expired. Honourable Pretorius.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, on the 12th of this month, the highly controversial National Health Insurance or NHI bill was forced through the National Assembly by the ANC. This means that South Africa is one step closer to a future in which our people have no say in their medical funding, and one in which the looting of public funds continues unabated. I do not believe it is an exaggeration to say that NHI will bankrupt this country. Even wealthy countries like the United Kingdom and China struggle to maintain their social health care services and frequently face shortages of personnel and resources. NHI envisions the implementation of a similar system here in South Africa, with none of the resources to back it up. National government wishes to take control of all healthcare in South Africa when it cannot even shield our hospitals from the load shedding it created. Speaker, this bill does not represent an attempt at healthcare reform that runs before it can walk. Rather, it represents an attempt to fly before we can crawl. But Speaker, I take heart of the fact that this bill, even if passed into law, will take more than 10 years to implement. By that time, the ANC will be out of power. This tragic misstep of the legislative process will have been consigned to the scrap heap, and South Africa will be flourishing under a new government. Despite the fact that our country is going through hard times, a change in leadership at the highest levels of power will herald a bright, bright future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Pretorius. I recognize Good.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The DA is introducing the Western Cape People's Bill for its first reading today. I'm a little confused. Why
Order,
do we
members.
need,
There's a member on the floor. Members on my right.
why?
Honourable De Villiers, my apologies. Please take your seat. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, it is a point of order. The Democratic Alliance has not introduced the Western Cape People's Bill, and therefore I would like to know whether the member is misleading the House.
That is not a point of order. If there's any corrections, there is an opportunity as per the rules where a member of the executive will have 5 minutes to reply or rebut any member statement. Honourable De Villiers, I will allow you the opportunity to continue. I'm not going to adjudicate on your content.
The DA is introducing the Western Cape People's Bill for the first reading today. I'm a little confused. Why do we need a Western Cape Bill giving us permission to do something we can already do? And why doesn't the Western Cape government lead by example and devolve some of its powers to local government? The city is in the best sphere of government to manage public transport in a functional region. Why hasn't the Western Cape devolved the Golden Arrow bus services contracting authority to the city so that the city can integrate it with the My City bus service and improve efficiencies? Why doesn't the Western Cape devolve the public transport operation license functions to the city to improve the integration of minibus taxis and bus services? The National Land Transport Act says this should be devolved. The Western Cape does not conform to this devolution. So why introduce a bill specifically aimed at ensuring the devolution of powers? Earlier in the week during the podcast, Phil Craig revealed, Roscoe Palm, that the Cape Independence Party had secured a question on the secession of the Western Cape from the rest of the country on a referendum the DA plans on holding once this bill is passed. Why should the Premier for once not opt for his favorite dance, the sidestep, to come clean on the DA's real intent with introducing this bill? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable de Villiers. I now recognize the ACDP.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The ACDP in the Western Cape is appalled and also want to strongly condemn, yes, condemn the move by the Department of Basic Education with cooperation with the Stellenbosch University to change the teacher's manual for nursery schools. Yes, nursery schools. Nursery school teachers are urged to make children sing rhymes and songs that are gender neutral. Honourable Speaker, this is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Order, members. Order. Order, members. Order, members. Honourable Christians, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. It's so ridiculous. If you look at the rhymes, hush little baby, don't cry. Papa's gonna buy you a mockingbird. Now you must change that to a gender neutral pronoun or noun. What is the Department of Basic Education doing? What are they going to do with the three little bears? Papa bear, mama bear, and baby bear. What are they going to do with Goldilocks? As Goldilocks become a it, a them, or they? Honourable Speaker, this is shocking. And the reason behind this is that children at a very young age must express or explore their own gender. A disgrace. The Department of Basic Education is confused, and don't confuse our children. Genesis 1:27 says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. There's no in between.
Honourable Christians, your time has expired.
There is
Please
no
conclude.
confusion. I want the voters of South Africa to know
Thank you
that what the ANC is doing.
Order, thank you, Honourable Christians. Honourable Murray, is there a point of order?
Yes, Speaker.
It's your point of order.
Speaker, I again want to ask the question of whether the remarks made by the Honourable Member do infringe on the rights to equality of residents in this province.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. I'm not going to rule on the content without having an opportunity to listen to the context, and so I'll wait for Hansard and revert back to the House. I now recognise the ANC. Order, members. There's an honourable member on the floor, Honourable Van Vogel.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. At its plenary sitting on the 12th June 2023, the National Assembly passed the National Health Insurance Bill. The bill has been sent to the NCOP for concurrence. This historic milestone marks a significant step towards achieving the equitable access to quality healthcare for all citizens, even the Auntie Anna and Mr. Van der Westhuizen se kombuis. The Honourable Speaker, the ANC government is committed to prioritise the health and well-being of all citizens regardless of their socio-economic background. The NHI will address the existing disparities in our healthcare systems as well as barriers access, thereby ensuring that no one is left behind when it comes to receiving quality medical care. The NHI envisages the creation of National Health Insurance Fund and sets out its powers, functions, and governance structures. The fund will purchase healthcare service for all users who are registered with it. We are not at all surprised by the fierce opposition of the NHI from the DA and its right-wing coalition led by the AfriForum and Solidarity. Honourable Speaker, Minister Patla was correct when he said These ones represent the narrow interests of the privileged few. They don't care about the masses of our people, the vulnerable groups that will benefit from this policy. The ANC warmly welcomes the passing of the bill and lauds the National Assembly for facilitating effective public participation on the NHI bill. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Van Vogel. I recognise the DA.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Over the past 2 weeks, parts of the Western Cape has been devastated by the impact of the widespread floods, which saw the destruction of property, public infrastructure, the displacement of communities, and sadly, also the loss of life. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I want to extend our thoughts and prayers to all those affected by the floods and send our heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of the deceased. I would also like to use my time this afternoon to send our sincere gratitude and thanks to all the emergency service workers, first responders, municipal workers, law enforcement, and civil society organizations across this province who sprang into action to assist communities. These past few weeks, we once again saw how important and effective a whole of society approach is in assisting communities and providing support to the most vulnerable. Honourable Speaker, the Provincial Disaster Management Centre played a pivotal role in leading and coordinating the response, but also in bringing together the various stakeholders involved in emergency and humanitarian efforts. We extend our appreciation in the Western Cape Provincial Government and its proactive disaster management interventions, as well as stakeholders such as the City of Cape Town, the National Sea Rescue Institute, Gift of the Givers, the South African Air Force, the South African Police Service, and the many other good Samaritans who stepped up to do their part. Honourable Speaker, there is still a lot of work to do, and we wish all the relevant teams at the Disaster Management Centre and on the ground, well as the mop-up operations continue, we wish them all the best. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Whip. I recognise the Freedom Front Plus.
Speaker, I have no statement today.
Thank you very much. I recognise Al Jamar.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and good afternoon to everybody. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Speaker, it is very disheartening to observe that the Western Cape legislator is giving its full support to Herzliya High School, an institution where learners are supposed to learn about social justice and fairness, are encouraged to embrace Zionism that is akin to apartheid. They further use the learning environment by encouraging its Jewish matriculants to not just travel to apartheid Israel, but to go for military training, an act that is against our democratic policies. Mr. Mania, education member of the Executive Council in the Western Cape legislator, is quoted in the South African Jewish report that the school will not be deregistered. Why should this member argue along these lines when the school has transgressed South Africa educational and related policies? Compare this with the draconian action taken against Heathfield High School principal, Mr. Wesley Newman, who was dismissed for keeping the school closed during the peak of COVID-19 in 2020. Herzliya administration subtly teaches values that support the Zionist project, one that publicly views all Palestinian Muslims and Christians as second-class communities. And for the record, there are those Jewish groups that have spoken and continue to speak out against these policies. Herzliya High School, being a registered institution in our province, has been abetting Zionism without it being censored. Why should our country's democratic educational policies be flouted and disregarded in this way by the schools or authorities?
Honourable Member, please conclude. Your time has expired.
Thank you, Speaker. We call on the WCED to deregister the school. Let us all be reminded of the...
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now
Thank you, Speaker.
recognize the DA.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I recently read an article which described a visit by the South African Police Service's top brass to China in order to discuss smart policing. Speaker, I'm very glad to see that the policing leadership of this country is taking the initiative to provide a better standard of training for our all too often overworked and underappreciated frontline officers. But Speaker, why would the ANC's top cops fly halfway around the world when there is a world-class, smart, data-driven policing effort taking place right here in the Western Cape? It was through the intelligent, data-driven deployment of limited resources that our province was able to reduce the number of murders by 14.1%, not due to the under-resourced and poorly efforts led by the National Police Minister. Before flying to China, Minister Cele and his entourage should first come to the Western Cape. Speaker, there are broader reasons for concern about the move by SAPS. The trip in question saw Minister Cele and several top police officers meet with the security apparatus of a regime that has repeatedly and without remorse employed violence against its own citizens. Those same officials that our national minister met with preside over the agencies responsible for brutally suppressing human rights and freedom of expression, and our government's collaboration with them represents a tacit endorsement of these ideals. When SAP says that they have gone to China to learn about smart policing, I hope that this is not a euphemism to employ similar tactics. In fact, with the ANC cozying up to Russia, I cannot help but view
Honourable
these
Bosman,
meetings...
please take your seat. Honourable Syed, is that a point of order?
Can the Honourable Bosman take a question, please, on the
Honourable
government's relations with China?
Honourable
provincial
Syed,
government's
please take your
relations
seat.
with China?
Please, Honourable Syed, you've asked if the Honourable Member is prepared to take a question. You do not pose the question without... Honourable Bosman, are you prepared to take a question in your statement slot?
No, I'm not, Honourable Speaker.
No,
I have no voting rights at this weekend's Congress. In fact, with the ANC cozying up to Russia, I cannot help but view these meetings as another step down in the path to tolerance for authoritarianism and the anti-democratic practice.
Honourable Bosman, please take your seat. Honourable Syed, is that a point of order?
No, it's a correction. The ANC doesn't have congresses, we have conferences. The Youth League of Member Kama has congresses. He must study political parties if he wants to dissect them.
Order.
He must not expose his level of...
Honourable members, that is not a point of order, Honourable Syed, for the record. Honourable Premier, is that a point of order?
Member on a point of correction.
Honourable Premier, no, that is not allowed. Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Bosman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. It's very sad to say that all the hard work that the previous Minister Schaefer put into educating Honourable Syed on the rules has not paid off. Honourable Speaker, with the ANC cozying up to Russia, I cannot help but view these meetings as another step down in the path of tolerance and authoritarianism and the anti-democratic practice that we know the ANC wants to implement. We should be condemning these regimes, not condoning them. And one hopes that no one within the party opposite harbors these same totalitarian ideas.
Honourable Bosman, please conclude. Your time is expired.
If they do, they have yet another reason for the voters of the Western Cape to vote them out next year.
Thank you, Honourable Bosman. Thank you very much, Honourable Members. That brings us to the end of members' statements. And in terms of Rule 145, subsection C, I will now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to members' statements for not more than 5 minutes collectively. Are there any, I recognize the Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'll try not to take too much time. First of all, to the Honourable de Villiers. In his statement, he says, I am a little confused. I'd like to say he is very confused, out of his depth. The Honourable Member, it's not the DA putting forward the motion today. The member behind you is putting forward the motion today, so he's definitely not a little confused. He's out of his depth, on the wrong field, probably playing with a rugby ball in a swimming pool with a hockey stick. Then, of course, I'd like to reflect on the honourable member who noted the NHI. I would like to say once again, the NHI is not workable and needs to be rejected in totality. And then the last point on the issue as raised around AGOA and the competency on dealing with AGOA. And of course, for me, the real confusion from our national colleagues, DIRCO. I'd like to point out on the 23rd of March, officially we wrote, the 23rd of March, 3 months ago, we wrote to the ambassador in Washington, letting her know about our visit. On the 24th of March to DIRCO, letting them know about our visit. There was no complaint of it whatsoever. And then, of course, before I left, I also engaged with the member responsible, Minister Patel, and we had a long conversation before I left. And in actual fact, today I've let him know that a report will be on the way to him before he goes to talk about AGOA in July. And also for the members' information that DIRCO's officials were in the meetings that we had in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Are there any other members of member of the executive that would like to respond? If not, that brings us to the end of members' statements. Honourable members, we will now move on to notices of motions as per Rule 151. Honourable Maran, in terms of Rule 151, all notices and motions by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing it on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. We now move on to motions without notice as per Rule 150. I would like to inform you that in terms of Rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory were submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 20th of June 2023. Members are also reminded that motions without notices pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in the sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. I have been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 20th of June 2023, political parties did submit the names of the honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to have moved a motion without notice in the sitting of this House. I will therefore, just for the noting and for the purposes of the minutes, call out the honourable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the Programming Authority as follows. Honourable D.M. Bartman, Honourable G. Bosman, Honourable I. Saleko, Honourable D.M. Bartman, Honourable A.P. Barnes, Honourable M.K. Syed, Honourable M. Kama, Honourable M. Kama, Honourable R. Windvogel, Honourable R. Windvogel, Honourable P.Z. Lekker. I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. These motions will appear in the minutes of the proceedings and in Hansard in each individual's name as if the member had read out the motion. I will now afford the opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the Programming Authority. Members are reminded that there is 30 minutes as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D, that will start in the next second. If I can just get my... Thank you. That will start now. I recognize the Honourable Saleko.
Manbulele Somlomo. I move notice without notice that this House acknowledge the findings of the Auditor General, highlighting that the current state of Beaufort West, Canaland, and Laingsburg can be attributed to the lack of leadership. This cannot be disputed by the incoming provincial leader and ANC member Cameron Dagmo, who was in the committee meeting when this was confirmed by the Auditor General. This House further acknowledges that these municipalities are governed by the ANC and their allies. This House recognizes that the Department of Local Government had extended assistance to Beaufort West, Canaland, and Laingsburg. However, it is regrettable that assistance can only be provided to those who actively seek it. This House
Order.
expresses serious
Order,
concern.
members. If you're an objection, you can indicate that when I put the question, but until that point, please allow the member to deliver the motion. Honourable Saleko, please continue.
Go to Nizon. Yeah. This House expresses serious concern over the Auditor General's report, which reveals that these municipalities made limited effort to enhance their financial management. That this House appreciates the Auditor General's encouragement for the DA-led Western Cape to serve as a leading example by promoting a culture of compliance and adherence. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Saleko. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I move that this House notes with excitement that the City of Cape Town has secured 100 million euros in infrastructure funding from the French Development Agency, which equates to about 2 billion rands. This will go towards the city's record-breaking 43 billion medium-term infrastructure budget. This funding will be used on improving water and sanitation, public transport, and access to electricity. That this House notes that the City of Cape Town alone has an infrastructure budget twice the size of the entire Gauteng province's infrastructure budget. This House notes that the DA-led Western Cape now has an infrastructure investment portfolio of 120 billion over the next 10 years. This House acknowledges the significant role this money will play in addressing socio-spatial inequalities and contributing to the creation and restoration of vital infrastructure throughout the city. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maseko. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I now recognise the Honourable Class.
I move without notice for the House to note that yesterday on the 21st June 2023, hundreds of community members marched to the Gugulethu Healthcare Center, demanding better service at the clinic. The residents complained about the issue of leaking roof when it rains, causing wet floors, long queues, missing patient files, robberies, maltreatment, and hands-off nursing staff, and further called for the hospital to be built in the area just like one in Khayelitsha. Furthermore, that there have been robberies in the area targeting patients visiting the clinic, as well as the security personnel. So residents are experiencing lack of proper health care service at the clinic and also feel unsafe as they robbed inside this clinic. All this testimony that the DA-led government does not take black people living in town seriously. I so moved.
Thank you, Honourable Class. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Can I please ask that Honourable Class, please. I now recognise the Honourable Lekker. Honourable Lekker, can you just put on your microphone or lift it up for the record?
I move that the House notes the concerning trends reflected in the latest crime statistics for Brackenfell. While it is encouraging to note the low incidence of violent crime, we express deep concern over the rise in common robbery, business burglary, car theft, and theft from the cars. These offences pose a significant threat to the safety, security, and the economic well-being of our community. We call upon the provincial government to work with law enforcement agencies, local authorities, and community organizations to collaborate and implement targeted strategies to combat these specific crimes, ensuring the protection of residents, businesses, and vehicles. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lecker. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is no objection. Agreed to. Honourable Syed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I move without notice that the House acknowledges the positive impact of the Rainbow Nations kids songs driven by a young woman, Lungi Naidu, in KwaZulu-Natal, and urges the Western Cape Education Department to develop similar projects for schools in our province. Rainbow Nations kids songs have successfully promoted unity, cultural diversity, and social cohesion amongst young learners. Recognizing the value of such initiatives, the WCED must invest in projects that celebrate our nation's diversity, foster inclusivity, and promote cultural understanding in schools across the Western Cape. By encouraging the development of similar programs, we can cultivate an environment that embraces our collective heritage, nurtures tolerance, and empowers our learners to become compassionate global citizens. I so.
Thank you very much, Honourable Syed. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I now recognize the Honourable Maran. Order, members.
Thanks,
Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Speaker. On behalf of the African National Congress, a motion without notice that the House notes the devastating impact on recent floods on the Western Cape citrus and potato harvests, which has the potential to incur significant financial losses for our farmers and farm workers. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, we call on the provincial government to swiftly intervene and provide the necessary support to those affected. Immediate assistance such as financial aid, infrastructure repairs, and access to resources is crucial to mitigate the economic burden imposed on these agricultural communities. By taking prompt action, the government can help safeguard the livelihoods of our farmers and farm workers and ensure the continued stability and productivity in our agricultural sector. I so move. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maran. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice?
Object, they're already there.
There's an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Lecker. Order, Honourable Lecker. Honourable members, Honourable Lecker, I recognize you. My apologies.
Speaker, I move that the House notes the concerning rise in numbers of small business owners fearing a potential turf war between extortion gangs in Cape Town. This alarming situation poses a significant threat to the safety, security, and livelihoods of these hardworking individuals and in their community. We call upon law enforcement agencies and local authority to prioritize the protection of small business owners and their businesses, implementing proactive measures to prevent criminal activities, dismantle extortion networks, and ensure the safety of all residents. By taking decisive action, we can create an environment where all business owners can operate without fear and contribute to the prosperity and diversity of Cape Town. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lecker. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There's no objection. Motion agreed to. I recognize the Honourable Kama.
Thank you, Speaker. On behalf of the People's Movement, the Black, Green and Gold African National Congress, I move a motion without notice that the House notes the pervasive issue of exclusion of black people from the economy of the Western Cape, that there is a need for an urgent need for equitable representation and economic opportunities. We call upon this Western Cape government and relevant stakeholders to actively work towards dismantling systemic barriers that hinder the full participation of black individuals in the region's economy. This includes implementing policies that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in hiring, procurement, and business ownership. By fostering an environment that embraces diversity and provides equal access to economic resources, we can create a more just and prosperous Western Cape for all residents in the Western Cape. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kama. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Syed.
Honourable Speaker, I move without notice on behalf of the African National Congress that the House notes with grave concern the high number of unplaced learners who, despite having applied on time and correctly, were rejected by all schools they applied to. Notes further that the latest of these cases involves Mrs. Keat, who applied for a daughter at 5 schools in the Stellenbosch area, and all applications were unsuccessful at schools like Renish Primary, Lou Laar School, Ekerstad Laar School, and various other schools. Notes further that Mrs. Keat has lodged an appeal at Renish Primary and calls on MEC Mania to intervene and ensure placement of this and other children at schools. Notes further and acknowledges that the unplaced learner crisis in the Western Cape is exacerbated by discriminatory and racist practices, especially by the school governing bodies of largely former Model C schools who, with the backing of the DA, the ACDP and the Freedom Front Plus, use the admissions and language policies to gatekeep and block mainly black learners, African, colored and Indian, from enrolling at their schools, resolves to call on MEC Mania and his department to appear before the Standing Committee to brief members about the root causes of this crisis with an action plan. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Syed. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognise the Honourable Syed.
I'm not surprised the Moonshot Coalition objects. Motion without notice.
Order, members. Honourable Syed, you may continue.
I move without notice, Honourable Speaker, that the House notes with grave concern and condemns the endless illegal extension of the National School Nutrition Programme NSP contract by the Western Cape Education Department, whereas the BWCED 291521 National School Nutrition Programme and BWCED 291621 Mod Centres were advertised on 13th May 2021 with a closing date of 14th June 2021. Only the award of bid BWCED 291521 was publicized on the Western Cape Tender Bulletin dated 12th December 2022. Until to date, bid BWCED 291621 has not been awarded. Instead, its validity period is being unendingly extended, including on the following dates: 11th December 2021 till the 31st of March 2022, 31st December 2022 till the 31st of July 2022, 31st of July 2022 till the 31st of October 2022, 31st of October 2022 till the 31st of January 2022, 31st of January 2023 to the 27th of March 2023, and from 27th March 2023 to 30th of June 2023. Notes further, and even the June 2023 date is being extended to the 30th of September 2023, according to the internal notice we've received, and resolves to call on the WCED to immediately end the illegal extension of the NSNP. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Syed. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable members, we have now come to the end of motions without notice. I will ask the Secretary to read the order of the day.
Introduction, Western Cape People's Bill.
Thank you very much. I will now afford the Honourable Marais 5 minutes to introduce the bill. Order members.
Speaker, Premier, honourable members.
Don't read.
Today I feel extremely honoured to have been tasked by the Freedom Front Plus to present the House with what is called the Western Cape People's Bill. The reference to Western Cape People's Bill fills me with pride. Ons is mos Wes-Kaapenaars. Ons moedertaal is oorwegend Afrikaans en ons geloof die van die Christen, gemeenskap, maar ook moslims en Jode. All I ask is that honourable members have clear, receptive minds, void of anger relating to past injustices. It's time to leave the past behind and plan for future
Order, members.
generations.
Order.
Some people are stuck in the past and cling to the idea of one-party domination. Group domination is an outdated ideology. Federal autonomous states is the new narrative. I remember that in 1996 I already went to court to challenge the ANC on provincial powers when I was Minister for Local Government, and I won the court case.
Order, members.
I pray for a bipartisan approach to move away from centralized government control. It's time for decisive action. Renew or democracy will die in this country. The preamble to the Western Cape Constitution reads, and I quote, "In humble submission to Almighty God, we, the people of the Western Cape, through our elected representatives, and recognizing and striving to heal the injustices of the past." The Constitution also says, endeavoring to promote the development of the Western Cape and a better quality of life for all its people through just and effective government, the recognition of the family values, etc. As party representatives in this House,
Honourable
we
Marais,
should be
my
mindful
apologies.
of it.
Honourable Marais, please take your seat. Honourable Klaas, is that a point of order?
Yes.
What's your point of order?
Point of order is that is not addressing the speaker, is addressing us. So
That's not a point of order. Honourable Klaas, please take your seat. Honourable Marais.
Intelligence takes time. Sir, it does not, our Constitution does not read, "We the people of South Africa." It reads, "The people of the Western Cape." And it says, through our own Western Cape, elected representatives will do this and that and that. The wording has been ratified by the Constitutional Court, so there can be no discussion about it. But we are currently centrally governed by force, not by our choice. The people of the Western Cape is entitled to exercise their right to self-determination. It will be consistent with Article 235 of South Africa's Constitution, something negotiated between the Freedom Front Plus and the ANC at Turnholler. I was there. Members now objecting were not there.
Order. Order, members.
The people of the West Cape can rely also on Section 31(1)(b) of the National Constitution, which requires that when interpreting our Bill of Rights and a dispute arises, then international law must be considered. On the 9th July 1996, the South African government ratified the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And this charter states that all peoples have the right to self-determination and to pursue economic and social development policies according, and this is important, according to their own choice. It doesn't say according to central government choices. On the 10th December 1998, South Africa also ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which states inter alia, all peoples have the right to self-determination. On the 12th January 2015, South Africa ratified the International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights. Self-determination comes in various forms. Yes, I know some people talk about corporate federalism, others call it federal autonomy, others fear it might mean secession, but that is not something for political parties to decide. That is something the people of the Western Cape must decide through referenda.
Honourable Marais, please conclude. Your 5 minutes has expired.
The people of the Western Cape are distinct and should be recognized by the state as culturally unique, linguistically and ideologically. We have distinct values.
Thank you, Honourable Marais.
Compared to the rest of South Africa as a whole.
Thank you.
Speaker, I present the House with the Western Cape People's Bill.
Thank you, Honourable Marais. Thank you, Honourable Marais. Honourable members, I will now request that the Honourable Marais please table the bill. Thank you very much, Honourable Marais. The bill has now been officially tabled. Honourable members, with that being said, that concludes the business for the House, and the House is adjourned. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting. The House is adjourned.